What's good, YouTube? It's Jay here. Today we're going to be taking a moment to review all existing information on Star Wars Squadrons before its release tonight. This includes story elements we know so far, gameplay mechanics, required specifications for your PC or console, and relatively any other additional information that we have been able to attain. I spent a lot of time researching a variety of articles, gathering information from different things on the web, from trailers, from gameplay reveals, and so on and so on. So I'm hoping that this video will give you a good enough of information that you'll need before you pick up this game. Now, unless you've pre-ordered it, I'm sorry, but I've already got the game pre-order for myself. So I'm kind of jumping out there and hoping that everything will be as good as it's going to look like it's going to be. But if you're a little cautious on buying the game, then you're in the right place to learn a little bit more about it. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Be sure to leave a like and comment down below what your thoughts are on this, on the game, subscribe and all that. And yeah, we're going to start off by taking a look at the story so far. So as we all know, Star Wars Squadrons takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi. You can choose to play as two individual pilots, one being Case Cassandora, I'm trying not to butcher these names, and Rao High Moon, with one being a member of the Empire and the other a member of the New Republic. In the new Disney expanding universe, the Galactic Civil War continued after Endor and lasted roughly 1 year. This is actually giving me a bit of concern for the length of the story, for as I'm sure we all know and are aware that this is not a lot of time to draft out a super dynamic Star Wars story, at least I would think. We're not exactly sure of the right date that the events of the game take place, but we do know it's post the Battle of Endor. At my time of writing the script for this video, this information is still yet unknown. Nevertheless, if Jedi Fallen Order taught me anything, you did not necessarily need a super long story to develop a proper and fun Star Wars title. Classic Star Wars games weren't necessarily super long, but they still maintain a very enjoyable storyline. Take Squadron's predecessors, X-Wing Alliance and X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, for example. Not super, well, okay, I take it back, those games were pretty long actually. But I mean, they lasted over the course of a few weeks, so I guess that's some implication that you can have a really well drawn out story without it being over the course of like decades and whatnot. But I digress, we'll see how that turns out. According to several trailers and pieces of information released on the internet, notable cameos of beloved and well-known Star Wars characters will be making their appearance. Wedge Antilles, who was loved for his appearance in both the original trilogy of Star Wars movies and his roles in the old expanding universe, is just one of these characters. From more recent media, Hera Syndulla, who appeared in the Disney original series Star Wars Rebels, will also be making an appearance in this game. What's interesting to me the most is seeing how far they're willing to develop her as a character. For all of the faults that Rebels had, I can at least admit that Hera was a pretty enjoyable character as a whole. The last time we received a reference to the Ghost Crew outside of their main series was a minor series of cameos in Rogue One, where several shots you can see the ghosts flying around during the Battle of Skyrim. Anyway, moving on from the story elements, let's take a moment to focus on the actual gameplay of the game. According to an article I reviewed on both Polygon and PC Gamer, of which links will be provided for in the description below, creative director Ian Fraser had this to say about the gameplay focus of Star Wars Squadrons. When you look at our flight model, your ships don't move like a ship would actually move in space, because ships in Star Wars don't move like ships would move in space. They move like ships move in Star Wars. There isn't any real one moment in the cinematic history to really go back to your question. There's no one specific moment where we're really looking at the classic trilogy, elements of Rogue One, and kind of putting them in the stew, and then the game emerges. He eventually goes on to describe the gameplay similar to a World War II dogfight, citing inspiration from the videos of aerial combat in World War II. Star Wars Squadrons will feature a variety of modes, a single-player campaign with two separate stories, one being for the New Republic and the other for the Empire, as mentioned earlier. For multiplayer, the dynamics grows were introduced to a 5v5 dogfight mode, assumably similar to classic multiplayer game modes across a variety of games like Team Deathmatch and so on. The biggest signature mode to look at will be fleet battles. This also 5v5 game mode is similar to dogfight, but with a larger amount of steps for victory. You have to win dogfights, bomb enemy capital ships, then hit its weak points to blow it apart. It reminds me a bit of the classic starfighter battles from the original Battlefront 2 2005 game, where you could board enemy capital ships and destroy them from the inside, or bombard their shields to a point where you could damage them on the outside to progress towards victory, minus the whole blowing them up bit. I'm really excited for this game mode. One of the more notable elements of both modes is the ability to also combat AI pilots. While Squadrons will clearly have a big focus on multiplayer elements, you will not necessarily need to duke it out with the best pilots in the world. in order to actually enjoy the game. If you casually want to play these modes or simply just get some practice in, these AI pilots will be just what you're looking for. Now, this video isn't sponsored or anything. This is everything based on what I've studied, just for the record. Because I know I sound like I'm promoting it, or I was given permission to promote it, or, you know, encouraged or promoted by EA or some other, you know, third party, but I wasn't. This is just all the information that I've researched thus far, and I'm trying to present it to you in the most professional way possible. Minus all the stuttering. For parts of the game that actually involve you and your ship, I think this is where a majority of the excitement will come from. Traditionally, squadrons will be similar to the older flight sim Star Wars games. You have the ability to reroute power to your forward or rear deflector shields, or your side deflector shields actually, to your engines, weapons, and so forth. There will also be the additional element of modifying your ships with better components or interior cosmetics. Delving into components a little bit more, squadrons will allow you to customize your vessel with 3 passive and 4 active component slots. Fighters without shields, which I assume in this case almost every Imperial vessel, will only have 6 slots however. Passive components will include engines, hull, and shields, while your active systems will consist of primary weapons, 2 auxiliary components, and countermeasures. The depth of these components is a lot more intuitive than I expected. For example, with the passive components, certain shields will be more effective versus missiles, while others will be better focused at deflecting laser. So particle shields versus energy shields, if I recall what that's called in the Star Wars universe. Some engines will offer greater maneuverability at the cost of top speed, so with each component there is some form of trade-off, which I like. For active systems, you'll be able to opt in for ion cannons, which are great at killing shields and disabling ships but offer little in hull damage. You'll be able to carry astromech droids aboard vessels that are capable of having them inserted for mid-flight repairs, or other components that increase your rate of fire at the cost of damage. The other components include a tractor beam potentially, and sensor jammers for preventing weapon locks. I don't know exactly what kind of vessels will have a tractor beam on them. Probably the U-Wing or the TIE Reaper, which are going to be 2 of the support vessels in the game, but we'll just see. As mentioned before, you'll be able to customize your fighters with cosmetics. This will include headgear, flight suits, your fighter heraldry, which should be the designs posted on the outside of your ship, I believe, and a host of other interior ship design options like bobbleheads or a map of the galaxy, for example. You have the ability to see this in combat or turn it off at will if you just want a more classic fighter cockpit kind of feel, which is something I probably would do. This image here is an example of how you will manage a variety of the information mentioned previously. There will be inside HUD elements that show your sensors or components you have installed, laser charge, and ship status, which I assume should break down health and shield strength kind of separately maybe. There will be monitors for your combat display, power management, and indicators for your speed and throttle strength. Controlling each of these elements comfortably will depend on your preferred method of playing this game. What I mean is, considering you can use controller, keyboard, and mouse, or a flight stick, the options will be very wide, so you should be able to set up your gameplay to fit your comfort with relative ease. The original X-Wing game control schemes are rather simple to understand, so hopefully it just transitions over to this newer title. Unlike the newer Battlefront games, you simply won't have the ability to just seamlessly lock on to enemies and just fire away. Battles will take a pretty understandable degree of skill, from leading your shots and understanding how to track your targets to getting a grasp of the game's movement mechanics. We've got fighters. This includes the T-65 X-Wing for the Republic and the TIE Fighter for the Empire. Both, according to the mentioned PC Gamer article, will be pretty balanced ships offering a variety of offensive and defensive capabilities. I'm going to assume speed for the TIE Fighter is going to be a bit of its advantage, while the X-Wing will have things like shields and overall just damage, having proton torpedoes, lasers, etc., etc. Interceptors are another category. This will include the A-Wing for the Republic and the TIE Interceptor for the Empire, both offering a high degree of dogfighting capabilities but little in terms of defense. As we all know, the A-Wing and the TIE Interceptor were not very tanky ships. They were capable of being destroyed with relative ease. A-Wing had light shields, didn't have an astromech droid. TIE Interceptor doesn't have an astromech droid or shields in general, so those are going to be your dogfighting units. Support ships will include the U-Wing and the TIE Reaper, both which will be suitable for crowd control. I'm not entirely certain what this means as of now, but it's safe to assume they're potentially going to play a bit more of tank roles, big targets with good shielding to distract your enemy. This is my own personal speculation, however, no, don't take my word for it. And finally, to round everything out, we have the bomber category, which consists of the Y-Wing for the New Republic and the TIE Bomber for the Empire. These ships will be slow but heavily armed capital ship killers. So while I do love the ships that we're starting with, down the line I hope that we're going to receive more vehicles as time goes on. For now, we do not seem to have access to the B-Wing, for example, or the TIE Defender. Granted, historically both of these ships are ridiculously overpowered and could potentially be game breaking. For a visual aspect, I'd love to have access to both of these sometime down the line. With the B-Wing in particular, I love to see what a rotating gyroscopic cockpit would look like in a 2020 game. For this ship seems to be consistently left out of a ton of Star Wars media oddly. Hopefully future content releases will provide a bit more insight on potential ships to come. I would really love to see more variety over time. Now let's look at one of the biggest question marks of the game, microtransactions. According to Motive Studios Creative, the team that is currently developing this game, Squadrons will not have microtransactions. According to creative director Ian Fraser, he had this to say regarding this topic. We're trying to say with this game that we have a $40 price point. We want to feel generous to the players and we want it to feel like a complete experience. Like, you gave us your $40, here's a game that you will love. Thank you, that's it. Squadrons will be at a base price of $40 USD, which is rather shocking for a modern game in a world where $60 titles are commonplace. Considering this is also an EA published title, this actually did surprise me a little bit. In the long run, whether the game releases with a ton of issues or not, the pricing honestly is one of its biggest selling points if you ask me. Again, it's nice to know that we can pick up a game, and if it does have issues, you didn't just drop $60 on it like the previous Battlefront games with their host of issues and all the DLC content, microtransactions, etc. At least you're still getting a pretty fair deal for this game. So with the lack of microtransactions in mind, how exactly will you unlock certain items and cosmetics in this game, you're probably wondering. EA made a statement explaining the Squadrons will incorporate a progression system. Daily challenges and operations will offer separate rewards. These daily challenges, according to this article by Andy Chalk over at PC Gamer, will reward glory points, which will be used to unlock ship and player cosmetics, while longer operations and challenges offer unique cosmetics based on Squadron's ongoing operations. Here's a quote provided by EA that breaks this down a little bit more in depth. Operations are 8-week cycles that happen in Squadrons, and each operation brings with it a set of unique cosmetic awards that can only be earned by completing its challenges, EA explained. Certain challenges also offer unique rewards too, so once they're gone, you won't be able to get the cosmetic unless the operation challenges return one day. EA will continue on in the article, explaining a little bit about the longevity of Star Wars Squadrons. And I quote, "While almost all of the game's experiences will be built in at launch, we'll still be updating it over time. We've seen a few questions about this, but should anything need to be balanced or fixed, we'll be actively taking your feedback to make this the best possible starfighter experience." Another element of the progression system will be ranks. You earn rankings through operations, and the 6 current ranks are Maverick, Hotshot, Hero, Valiant, Legend, and Galactic Ace. I really like these names. These ranks will be found in the 6-stage competitive fleet battle ladder and at the end of each operation. Fleet battle ranks will be reset and players will receive glory based on the maximum rank they've achieved. Hopefully these ranks will provide players with something else to chase, considering that they are seemingly the backbone of the progression system within the game. I'm super excited to see exactly what operations will consist of. It's already known that escort missions are one of the many available mission types. Other considerable options could be search and destroy maybe, capture the flag, or any other possible operations that are doable with a squadron of starfighters. Again, this is my own speculation, don't take my word for it. Outside of this competitive ladder, progression and experience can also be earned by doing relatively anything in the game. Upon hitting level 40, you no longer receive requisition points, but by that time, you'll probably have everything unlocked in the game, so that's not really that big of a deal. Bonus game events will unlock more glory points, while other items can be unlocked for completing the story mode and for completing the tutorial. So either way, it's a win-win. You get something for playing the game. Overall, Squadron seems like it's going to be packing a ton of content for a significantly lower than normal price tag. From the customization options to the inclusion of both a single player campaign and a variety of multiplayer modes, I'm expecting this to be a very enjoyable experience. Frankly, with the way EA has handled the Star Wars title over the last few years, I haven't been this excited for a Star Wars game in years. I loved Fallen Order. Prior to its release, I wasn't particularly excited, however, due to the rather bizarre releases for both Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Battlefront 2. Hopefully the progression system will not be as ridiculous as Battlefront 2's original system, and hopefully EA will stick to avoiding the microtransaction system that many of us have come to dislike over the last decade. I'm not entirely certain what to expect from the story mode this time. That's a very hit or miss area. Fallen Order had a great story, Rogue One had a great story, but Battlefront 2 and the sequel movies were absurdly lacking in this area. It's a rather bit of a red zone for me personally. Star Wars Squadrons will be releasing October 2nd this Friday. I'll be starting a new Let's Play series for the story mode that will be posted daily over at my Twitch channel. I'll be streaming the game's multiplayer modes with my viewers and other friends that pick up the game. I'm really looking forward to this release, and I hope the devs over at Motive Studios Creative will deliver an amazing experience. So that's gonna be it for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more gaming content, Star Wars, Call of Duty, whatever you want to call it, whatever you name it. I'll have it, hopefully. And I'll see you in orbit. May the force be with you as always. Peace.
Picking up the pieces that I lost in the lobby. I put you against the wall, you had us body to body. I can't help the way you make me feel, it's so hard to copy. Let's find common ground, meet me in a lost and found. Yeah, dark days turning into dark nights. I hit the strip and spin it all, I'm having hard times. I reminiscing at me looking through the archives. I seen a picture of you looking like a star shines, and you bright, 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 like the lights on a fight night.